The morning sun cast long shadows across the hospital corridor as William sat quietly beside Kate's bed. Her breathing was shallow but peaceful, and the gentle rise and fall of her chest had become the rhythm by which he measured each passing moment. The doctors had delivered the news 3 weeks ago with clinical precision, but nothing could have prepared him for the reality of watching the woman he loved slowly slip away. Kate had always been the stronger one between them. When they first met at university, she was the confident literature student who challenged his ideas and made him think beyond his comfortable assumptions. William remembered how she would sit in the campus cafe, surrounded by books, her dark hair catching the afternoon light as she passionately debated the meaning behind every poem and novel they studied together. Their love story had unfolded like the books Kate cherished. It began with stolen glances across lecture halls, progressed to long walks along the riverbank discussing everything from Shakespeare to their dreams for the future, and blossomed into a partnership that had weathered 23 years of marriage and raised 2 beautiful children. Now, as William watched her sleep, he could see traces of that young woman who had captured his heart. Even illness could not diminish the grace that seemed to radiate from her very being. The nurses often commented on how she never complained, how she always asked about their families, how she remembered small details about their lives even when pain medication clouded her thoughts. Dr. Martinez had been gentle but honest during their last conversation. Kate's condition was progressing faster than anyone had hoped. The treatments that had initially shown promise were no longer effective, and her body was growing too weak to continue fighting. William appreciated the doctor's straightforward approach, though the words had felt like physical blows. Kate stirred slightly, her eyelids fluttering open. When she saw William, a soft smile spread across her face, the same smile that had greeted him every morning for over 2 decades. Her voice was barely above a whisper, but her words carried the warmth that had always been her trademark. "Good morning, my love. Have you been here all night again?" William reached for her hand, marveling at how her fingers still fit perfectly between his own. Despite everything, her touch still brought him comfort and strength. He had indeed spent another night in the uncomfortable hospital chair, unable to leave her side, afraid that if he went home to sleep, he might miss something precious. "I dozed. A little," he lied gently, knowing she worried about his health almost more than her own. "The nurses brought me coffee and a blanket. They take good care of both of us." Kate's eyes twinkled with the mischief he remembered from their early days together. "You always were a terrible liar, William. Promise me you'll go home tonight and sleep in our bed. I'll still be here tomorrow." The weight of unspoken words hung between them. They both knew that tomorrow was never guaranteed, but Kate's optimism had always been infectious. Even now, facing the unknown, she found ways to bring light into the darkness that threatened to consume them both. Their daughter Emma had visited the previous evening, bringing photos from her recent art exhibition. Kate had insisted on looking through every single image, asking detailed questions about each piece and beaming with pride at Emma's accomplishments. Their son Michael had called from his business trip in London, and Kate had spent 30 minutes on the phone assuring him that he didn't need to cut his trip short, that she would wait for his planned visit next week. William admired how Kate continued to put everyone else's needs before her own. It was a quality that had defined their entire relationship. She had supported his career changes, encouraged his dreams of starting his own business, and celebrated every success as if it were her own. When the children were young, she had been the one who remembered every school play, every soccer game, every birthday party invitation. The afternoon brought a steady stream of visitors. Kate's sister Sarah arrived with homemade soup that Kate couldn't eat, but appreciated nonetheless. Their longtime friends Peter and Margaret stopped by with flowers from their garden, the same garden where Kate had spent countless hours helping Margaret plan and plant over the years. Each visitor brought stories and memories, filling the sterile hospital room with laughter and love. As evening approached, William noticed Kate growing tired. The effort of maintaining conversations and putting on a brave face was taking its toll, though she would never admit it. He began gently encouraging visitors to keep their stays brief, protecting her energy while ensuring she felt surrounded by the love she had spent a lifetime cultivating. When the last visitor had gone, and the hospital settled into its nighttime rhythm, Kate reached for William's hand again. Her grip was weaker than it had been that morning, but her determination remained strong. "I need to tell you something important," she whispered, her eyes searching his face. "I need you to know that these have been the most beautiful years of my life. Every single day with you has been a gift, even the difficult ones, even the days when we disagreed or struggled to understand each other." William felt tears welling in his eyes, but Kate's steady gaze gave him strength to listen without breaking down. This was her moment to speak, and he understood that she needed him to be present for whatever she wanted to share. "I'm not afraid of what's coming," she continued. "I'm sad to leave you and the children, but I'm not afraid. We've built something beautiful together, something that will continue long after I'm gone. Our love, our family, the way we've touched other people's lives, that doesn't end just because my body is tired." The room fell silent except for the gentle hum of medical equipment and the distant sounds of hospital activity. William knew that this conversation marked a turning point, a moment when they both acknowledged what lay ahead while celebrating what they had shared. Kate's grace in facing the unknown inspired him even as his heart broke at the thought of losing her. As night deepened around them, William settled back into his chair, Kate's hand still clasped in his own. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and difficult conversations, but tonight they had this moment of perfect understanding, surrounded by the love that had sustained them through everything life had offered. The next morning brought unexpected energy to Kate's movements. She sat up more easily than she had in days, and her appetite returned enough that she managed half a bowl of oatmeal. William dared to hope that perhaps they had more time than the doctors predicted, that Kate's fighting spirit might overcome the medical odds stacked against them. Emma arrived early, her artist's eye immediately noticing the improvement in her mother's condition. She settled into the chair beside the bed with her sketch pad, something she had been doing since childhood whenever she wanted to capture important moments. Kate watched with fascination as her daughter's skilled hands brought life to the blank page. "What are you drawing today, sweetheart?" Kate asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Emma smiled without looking up from her work. "You and Dad, the way you look at each other, even here, even now. I want to remember this exact moment forever." The honesty of youth had always been refreshing to Kate. Where adults often struggled to find appropriate words for difficult situations, Emma simply stated her intentions with beautiful clarity. She wanted to preserve this moment because she understood its significance, not despite the sadness that surrounded it. Michael called during the afternoon, his voice bright with excitement about a successful presentation he had given to potential investors. Kate listened with genuine interest, asking questions about his business plans and offering encouragement. William marveled at how she could set aside her own circumstances to fully engage with their son's achievements. After the call ended, Kate turned to William with tears in her eyes, but they were tears of joy rather than sadness. "Did you hear how confident he sounded? How excited he was about his future? We raised remarkable children, didn't we?" William nodded, understanding that Kate was finding peace in seeing their children thriving and independent. The greatest gift she could give them was knowing they were prepared for life without her constant guidance and support. Dr. Martinez visited late in the afternoon, bringing news that surprised them all. Kate's sudden improvement was not uncommon in patients with her condition. Sometimes the body found reserves of strength that allowed for what medical professionals called good days or even good weeks. However, he cautioned them not to mistake this rally for a sign of recovery. "Enjoy this time," he advised gently. "Use it to say the things you need to say and do the things that matter most to you." After the doctor left, Kate asked William to help her walk to the hospital's garden. It was a request that would have seemed impossible just days earlier, but her newfound energy made it achievable. With William's steady support and a wheelchair nearby for when she tired, they made their way outside. The garden was peaceful in the late afternoon light. Other patients and families occupied various benches and pathways, each dealing with their own struggles and hopes. Kate breathed deeply, savoring the fresh air and the feeling of sunshine on her face. "I had almost forgotten how good it feels to be outside," she said, settling onto a bench beside a fountain that bubbled cheerfully in the center of the garden. "It's funny how we take such simple pleasures for granted when we're healthy. William sat beside her, watching as she observed everything around them with heightened awareness. A young couple walked past, the woman clearly pregnant and glowing with anticipation. An elderly man fed breadcrumbs to sparrows from his wheelchair, while his wife looked on with an expression of deep tenderness. Children played on a small playground visible through the garden's fence, their laughter carrying on the breeze. "Look at all this life," Kate whispered, wonder evident in her voice. "Look at all these stories happening right around us. The pregnant woman is probably wondering if she'll be a good mother. The elderly couple has probably been together for 50 years or more. Those children are creating memories they'll carry forever." Her observations reminded William of why he had fallen in love with her empathy and her ability to see beauty and meaning in everyday moments. Even facing her own mortality, Kate remained fascinated by the lives unfolding around her. As the sun began to set, Kate asked William to push her wheelchair to different areas of the garden. She wanted to see the rose bushes that were just beginning to bloom, to watch the koi fish swimming in a small pond, to observe the way evening light filtered through the leaves of an old oak tree. At each stop, she shared memories connected to what they were seeing. The roses reminded her of their wedding day and the bouquet she had carried. The fish made her think of the aquarium they had visited during their honeymoon. The oak tree brought back memories of the ancient tree in her childhood backyard where she used to read books during summer afternoons. "I'm creating a catalog," she explained when William asked about her detailed observations. "I want to remember everything beautiful I've ever experienced. I want to carry all of it with me." As they returned to her room, Kate's energy began to fade, but her spirits remained high. The time outside had recharged something essential in her spirit, reminding her that she was still part of the larger world even while confined to the hospital. That evening, Kate asked Emma to bring her laptop so she could write letters to people who had been important in her life. She wanted to thank her childhood teachers, college friends she had lost touch with, neighbors who had become like family, and colleagues from the library where she had worked before the children were born. "I don't want anyone to wonder if they mattered to me," she explained as she slowly typed each message. "I want them to know that they made my life richer just by being part of it." William watched as Kate crafted each letter with the same care she had always brought to her correspondence. She took time to mention specific memories, to acknowledge ways each person had influenced her, and to express genuine gratitude for their presence in her life. The project took several hours, with Kate pausing frequently to rest her hands or gather her thoughts. Emma helped by typing when Kate's energy flagged, taking dictation with the same attention to detail that Kate would have insisted upon herself. As the evening grew late, Kate completed the final letter and closed the laptop with satisfaction. She had reached out to over 30 people, creating a network of connection that would extend far beyond her physical presence. "Now I feel complete," she said, settling back against her pillows with a peaceful expression. "Everyone who needs to know how much they meant to me will know. That matters more than anything else I could leave behind." 3 days later, Kate's condition took a sudden turn. The brief rally that had given them all hope began to fade, and she found herself sleeping more hours than she remained awake. When consciousness did surface, it came in gentle waves rather than the sharp awareness she had experienced earlier in the week. William noticed the change immediately. Kate's responses became slower, her voice softer, and her grip on his hand grew lighter with each passing hour. Dr. Martinez confirmed what William already understood deep in his heart. They were entering the final phase of Kate's journey. Michael arrived that afternoon, having cut his business trip short despite his mother's earlier protests. When he walked into the room, Kate's eyes brightened with unmistakable joy. She managed to lift her arms for an embrace, holding her son close while whispering words of love and pride that only he could hear. "I'm so glad you came," she murmured against his shoulder. "I was hoping to see you one more time." Michael, usually composed and business-minded like his father, broke down at her words. The successful young entrepreneur became a child again, seeking comfort from the woman who had bandaged his scraped knees and celebrated his achievements throughout his life. Emma took charge of practical matters with quiet efficiency that reminded William of Kate's own approach to crisis management. She arranged for extended family to visit, coordinated with the hospital staff to ensure Kate's comfort, and somehow managed to maintain the peaceful atmosphere that Kate needed during these precious final days. Kate's sister Sarah brought their elderly mother, a visit that had been planned but moved up given the circumstances. The reunion between mother and daughter was profound in its simplicity. Kate's mother, despite her own frailty, seemed to draw strength from somewhere deep within herself to be present for her daughter. "You've been the light of my life since the day you were born," Kate's mother whispered, stroking her daughter's hair with hands that trembled from age but remained gentle with love. "You've made me proud every single day." Kate's childhood friends began arriving throughout the week. Lisa, her college roommate, traveled from across the country to spend an afternoon sharing memories of their university days. Rachel, her neighbor from their first apartment, brought photo albums filled with pictures from dinner parties and holiday celebrations they had shared as young wives, learning to navigate marriage together. Each visitor brought pieces of Kate's life story, creating a tapestry of relationships that painted a picture of a woman who had touched countless lives through her kindness, intelligence, and genuine interest in others. William found himself learning new details about his wife's impact on people, stories she had never shared because she had never considered her acts of kindness worthy of mention. The hospital staff noticed the constant stream of visitors and, rather than enforcing visiting restrictions, quietly accommodated the obvious love and respect that surrounded Kate. Nurses would peek in during shift changes, often staying for a few extra minutes to contribute their own observations about Kate's gentle spirit and consideration for others. During quieter moments, when visitors had gone home and the children were resting in the family lounge, William and Kate shared their most intimate conversations. She spoke about her hopes for their children's futures, her wishes for William's life after she was gone, and her gratitude for the years they had shared together. "I want you to be happy," she said during one of these private moments. "I want you to travel to all those places we talked about visiting. I want you to learn new things, meet new people, and continue growing. You have so much life left to live, and I want it to be full and meaningful." William struggled with the idea of a future without Kate, but he understood that his acceptance of her wishes was a gift he could give her during these final days. She needed to know that he would not only survive her loss but would honor their life together by continuing to embrace all that the world had to offer. Kate also shared practical wisdom about maintaining relationships with their children as they navigated their own grief. She reminded William of Emma's tendency to withdraw when overwhelmed, and suggested ways he could stay connected without being intrusive. She spoke about Michael's likelihood to throw himself into work as a coping mechanism and encouraged William to create opportunities for father-son bonding that didn't feel forced or artificial. "They're going to need you in different ways than they needed me," she explained. "Emma will need space to process but also reassurance that you're available when she's ready to talk. Michael will need structure and goals, but also permission to be vulnerable sometimes." Her insights into their children's personalities and needs demonstrated the depth of attention she had paid to their development throughout their lives. Even while facing her own mortality, Kate continued to mother with wisdom and foresight. As the week progressed, Kate began sleeping for longer periods, but her waking moments remained lucid and meaningful. She asked William to read aloud from their favorite books, starting with the poetry collection they had discovered together during their university years. Her breathing would deepen and become more peaceful as familiar words washed over her. One evening, as William read from a Robert Frost poem about roads and choices, Kate smiled and whispered, "We chose well, didn't we? All those crossroads, all those decisions, we chose love every time." The simple truth of her observation struck William with overwhelming force. They had indeed chosen love, through disagreements and disappointments, through career challenges and parenting struggles, through illness and uncertainty. Love had been their compass and their destination, guiding them through 23 years of marriage that had been far from perfect, but had been perfectly theirs. Emma continued sketching throughout these days, capturing not just images but entire scenes of tenderness and grace. Her drawings showed William reading to Kate, Michael holding his mother's hand while sharing stories from his travels, Sarah brushing Kate's hair with gentle strokes, and quiet moments when Kate simply gazed out the window at the sky beyond. "These drawings aren't just for me," Emma explained to her father. "They're for everyone who loves Mom. Someday, when the sharp pain of missing her has softened into sweet memories, These pictures will help us remember exactly how much love surrounded her during these final days. The morning brought an unexpected visitor who would change the texture of Kate's final days. Father Thomas, the hospital chaplain, knocked gently on the door and asked if he might spend a few minutes with the family. Kate had not been particularly religious throughout her life, but she had always been spiritual in her own quiet way, finding meaning in nature, literature, and human connection. "I don't want to intrude," Father Thomas said, his voice carrying the kind of warmth that immediately put people at ease. "I simply wanted to offer my presence if it would bring any comfort." Kate surprised everyone by accepting his offer eagerly. "I'd love to talk with you," she said, her voice stronger than it had been in days. "I have so many questions about what it all means, about how to make sense of everything I've experienced." What followed was not a religious conversion or a dramatic spiritual awakening, but rather a series of gentle conversations about life, love, and the mystery of human existence. Father Thomas listened more than he spoke, asking thoughtful questions that helped Kate explore her own understanding of the meaning she had found in her relationships and experiences. "I keep thinking about all the moments when I felt connected to something bigger than myself," Kate shared during one of their talks. "When the children were born, when I watched William achieve his dreams, when I helped a student at the library discover a book that changed their perspective. Those moments felt sacred, even though I wouldn't have used that word at the time." Father Thomas nodded with understanding. Many people find the sacred in exactly those places, in love, in service, in the connections we forge with one another. Perhaps that's been your faith all along, even if you didn't recognize it as such. These conversations brought Kate a sense of peace that seemed to radiate outward, touching everyone who entered her room. William noticed that she spoke with even greater clarity about her hopes for her family's future, as if the philosophical discussions had helped her organize her thoughts and priorities. Emma asked to sit in on one of these conversations, bringing her sketch pad as always. She drew while listening to her mother and the chaplain explore questions about legacy, memory, and the ways that love transcends physical presence. "What happens to all the love when someone dies?" Emma asked, her pencil pausing mid-stroke. "Does it just disappear or does it continue somehow?" Kate reached for her daughter's hand, her eyes bright with the intensity that had always marked her most important conversations. "Love doesn't disappear, sweetheart. It transforms. It becomes the foundation for how you treat other people, the strength you draw on during difficult times, and the joy you feel when you remember all our happy moments together." Father Thomas added his own perspective. "Love multiplies rather than divides. The love your mother has given you doesn't become less when you share it with others. It becomes more. Every time you show kindness because of what she taught you, her love continues to grow in the world." These ideas resonated deeply with Michael, who had always been more comfortable with concrete concepts than abstract emotions. The notion that love could be measured by its ongoing impact rather than its duration gave him a framework for understanding how his mother's influence would continue long after her death. As Kate's energy continued to decline, she began asking for specific people to visit for what she privately understood would be final conversations. Her requests were thoughtful and deliberate. She wanted to see her first boss from the library, a college professor who had encouraged her love of literature, and Mrs. Henderson, the elderly neighbor who had become like a grandmother to Emma and Michael. Each of these conversations followed a similar pattern. Kate would thank the visitor for their specific contributions to her life, share a cherished memory, and offer some piece of wisdom or encouragement that addressed the person's current circumstances. She approached these meetings with the same grace and attention to detail that had characterized her approach to everything important throughout her life. Mrs. Henderson's visit was particularly touching. The 85-year-old woman had been like a second mother to Kate during the early years of her marriage, offering practical advice about everything from cooking to child-rearing. She arrived at the hospital with a small potted plant and a card filled with photographs from neighborhood gatherings over the years. "You've been like a daughter to me," Mrs. Henderson said, tears streaming down her weathered cheeks. "Watching you raise those beautiful children, seeing how you and William built such a strong marriage, it's given me hope about the next generation." Kate squeezed the older woman's hand. "You taught me that family isn't just about blood relations. You showed me how neighbors can become chosen family, how community is built one kind gesture at a time. Emma and Michael will carry those lessons forward." Dr. Martinez continued to visit daily, monitoring Kate's condition while also providing emotional support to the family. He had delivered difficult news to countless families throughout his career. But Kate's grace and the love that surrounded her had made a lasting impression on him. In 30 years of medicine, I've learned that how someone faces the end of life often reflects how they lived, he shared with William during a private conversation. Your wife is teaching all of us about dignity, about the power of love, and about the importance of using whatever time we have to strengthen our connections with others. The nursing staff had grown equally attached to Kate and her family. During shift changes, different nurses would find excuses to check on her, drawn by the peaceful atmosphere that somehow persisted, despite the sadness of the situation. They brought extra blankets without being asked, adjusted her pillows with particular care, and often stayed a few minutes longer than necessary to chat about their own families or interests. Kate remembered details about each nurse's life, whose daughter was applying to college, whose husband was changing careers, whose grandmother was celebrating a milestone birthday. Even while her own strength faded, she continued to show genuine interest in the lives of people caring for her. One young nurse, barely out of training, confided that Kate's example was teaching her invaluable lessons about patient care. I thought my job was just about medical procedures and keeping people comfortable, she said. But watching how your wife treats everyone with such kindness and interest, I'm learning that healing involves so much more than medicine. As the days passed, Kate's periods of wakefulness became shorter but more intense. When she was alert, she seemed to exist in a state of heightened awareness, as if she were seeing and feeling everything with extraordinary clarity. Her conversations became more philosophical, her observations more profound, and her expressions of love more direct and powerful. I feel like I'm seeing everything for the first time and the last time simultaneously, she told William during one of these lucid moments. Every face looks more beautiful, every word carries more weight, every touch feels more precious. I wish I had lived my whole life with this kind of awareness. The weekend brought a gathering that Kate had quietly orchestrated through whispered conversations with Emma and Michael. She had asked them to invite everyone who had been part of their lives as a family, friends, neighbors, colleagues, and extended family members, for what she called a celebration of connection. The hospital administrators, moved by the extraordinary outpouring of love they had witnessed throughout Kate's stay, arranged for the use of a large conference room adjacent to the medical wing. It was an unprecedented accommodation, but Kate's impact on the staff and her family's grace during an incredibly difficult time had inspired them to bend usual policies. William was initially hesitant about the gathering, worried that it would exhaust Kate and create chaos during her final days. But Kate's determination was unmistakable, and he realized that this event was essential to her sense of completion and peace. I want to see everyone together one more time, she explained. I want to witness the community we've built, the friendships that will outlast my physical presence. Most importantly, I want all these wonderful people to know each other better, so they can support each other after I'm gone. Emma and Michael worked together to organize the event with remarkable efficiency. They contacted dozens of people from different periods of their parents' lives, coordinated schedules, and arranged for simple refreshments. Their ability to collaborate on such a meaningful project despite their own grief demonstrated the strength Kate had always seen in their sibling relationship. On Saturday afternoon, Kate was carefully transferred to a wheelchair and brought to the conference room, where she was positioned near a window where afternoon light could warm her face. As people began arriving, the room filled with an energy that transcended the sadness of the circumstances. Old friends reconnected with each other, sharing memories of Kate that painted a picture of a woman who had consistently shown up for others throughout her life. Teachers from Emma and Michael's schools spoke about Kate's involvement in parent organizations and her volunteer work with struggling students. Colleagues from William's business shared stories about Kate's support during challenging professional periods and her talent for making everyone feel welcome at company gatherings. Kate watched the interactions with obvious joy, occasionally calling people over to introduce them to others she thought they should know. Even in her weakened state, she continued to play the role of connector and facilitator that had always come naturally to her. Look at Margaret talking with Emma's art teacher, she whispered to William. Margaret has always wanted to try painting, and Mrs. Cole has been looking for mature students for her evening classes. They're going to be perfect for each other. Her ability to see potential connections and relationships even during her farewell gathering exemplified the gift she had always possessed for bringing out the best in people and situations. The room buzzed with new friendships forming and old ones being strengthened. Exactly as Kate had hoped, Michael stood to address the gathering, his voice initially shaky but growing stronger as he spoke from his heart. "Mom asked us to bring everyone together because she wanted you to know how much your friendship has meant to our family. But I think she also wanted us to realize that we're all connected to each other through her love, and that those connections don't end just because she won't be here to maintain them." The room fell silent as people absorbed the wisdom in his words. Then one by one, individuals began sharing brief stories about Kate's impact on their lives. The librarian she had worked with spoke about Kate's patience with difficult patrons and her talent for matching readers with books that would change their perspectives. A neighbor described how Kate had organized meal deliveries when she was recovering from surgery, coordinating dozens of families to ensure continuous support. Emma's college friend shared how Kate had opened her home during school breaks to international students who couldn't afford to travel home for holidays. A former student from the literacy program where Kate had volunteered credited her with helping him earn his GED and eventually pursue higher education. Each story revealed another facet of Kate's character and another example of her quiet but consistent investment in other people's well-being. William found himself learning things about his wife's impact that she had never mentioned, acts of kindness and support that she had never considered worth discussing. As the afternoon progressed, Kate began to tire, but she refused to leave until she had spoken personally with each person who had come to see her. These brief conversations followed a pattern of gratitude, specific memories, and encouragement for the future, but each was uniquely tailored to the individual and their relationship with Kate. To her former supervisor at the library, she said, "Thank you for teaching me that helping people find information is really about helping them find hope and possibility. That lesson shaped how I approached every relationship in my life." To her children's former piano teacher, she offered, "You gave Emma and Michael more than musical skills. You taught them discipline, the joy of creating beauty, and the satisfaction of working hard to achieve something meaningful. Those lessons will serve them well in everything they do." To a young mother from their neighborhood, she shared, "Don't worry so much about being a perfect parent. Love your children, show up consistently, and trust that your good intentions will guide you through the difficult decisions. You're doing better than you think you are." Each conversation lasted only a few minutes, but the impact was profound. People left feeling not only that they had said goodbye to Kate, but that they had received a gift of encouragement and perspective that would sustain them long after her death. As the gathering began to wind down, Kate asked William to wheel her chair to the center of the room. With effort that surprised everyone, she managed to stand with his support, addressing the assembled group in a voice that somehow carried to every corner of the space. "Thank you all for being here today, and thank you for sharing your lives with my family over the years. You've given us love, support, laughter, and friendship that have made our journey together richer than we ever could have imagined. I'm not afraid of what comes next because I know that all of you will continue to care for William, Emma, and Michael. More than that, I know you'll continue to care for each other." She paused, gathering strength for her final words. "Please don't remember me with sadness. Remember me by continuing to show up for each other the way you've shown up for us. Remember me by being kind to strangers, by helping your neighbors, by choosing love over fear whenever possible. If you do those things, then I'll live on in ways that matter more than any monument or memorial could ever achieve." The room was silent, except for quiet tears and the soft sound of people reaching for each other's hands. In that moment, Kate had transformed her farewell into a charge for the future, a call to action that would influence how these people approached their relationships and responsibilities long after her physical presence was gone. As William helped Kate back into her wheelchair, she looked around the room one final time, her eyes bright with satisfaction and peace. She had accomplished exactly what she had hoped, creating a moment of connection that would strengthen the community she was leaving behind. The gathering had taken more out of Kate than anyone realized. By Sunday morning, it was clear that her body was beginning its final preparations for departure. Her breathing became more labored, her periods of consciousness grew shorter, and her responses to questions became gentle nods rather than spoken words. Dr. Martinez visited early in the day, speaking quietly with William about what to expect in the coming hours. Kate's vital signs indicated that they were entering the final phase, likely a matter of days rather than weeks. The doctor's gentle honesty helped William prepare mentally, while also acknowledging the surreal nature of trying to plan for the unplannable. Emma and Michael took turns sitting beside their mother's bed, each processing the approaching loss in their own way. Emma continued sketching, but her drawings had evolved from detailed portraits to abstract expressions of emotion, swirling patterns that somehow captured the complexity of love, grief and gratitude existing simultaneously in the same space. Michael had taken charge of practical matters, working with the hospital social worker to understand the procedures that would follow Kate's death. His business training served him well in navigating the administrative details, but William could see how focusing on logistics also provided his son with a way to feel useful during a time when helplessness threatened to overwhelm them all. Kate's sister Sarah had been staying at the hospital around the clock, sleeping in the family lounge and coordinating meals for everyone who had been maintaining vigil. Her quiet efficiency reminded William of Kate's own approach to crisis management. She identified what needed to be done and simply did it, without drama or fanfare. Throughout Sunday, Kate drifted in and out of consciousness, but when she was awake, she seemed to exist in a state of profound peace. Her face had taken on an almost luminous quality, as if some inner light was shining through her increasingly fragile physical form. The lines of worry and pain that had marked recent weeks had softened, replaced by an expression of serene acceptance. During one of her lucid moments, Kate asked William to help her sit up so she could look out the window. The view showed the hospital garden where they had spent that precious afternoon just days earlier, though it felt like a lifetime ago. The roses were in fuller bloom now, their vibrant colors creating a tapestry of beauty that seemed to bring Kate comfort. "Everything looks so vivid," she whispered, her voice barely audible but filled with wonder. "The colors are brighter, the shapes are clearer. It's as if someone has turned up the contrast on the entire world." William followed her gaze, trying to see the garden through her eyes. To him, it looked the same as always, but he trusted that Kate was experiencing something beyond his perception. Throughout their marriage, she had always noticed details and beauty that escaped his attention, and he had learned to value her perspective even when he couldn't fully share it. Emma joined them at the window, settling into the chair on Kate's other side. "Mom, what do you see out there that we might be missing?" Kate smiled, her eyes still focused on the garden. "I see all the connections. The way the roots of the trees talk to each other underground, how the flowers depend on the bees and the bees depend on the flowers. I can almost see the invisible threads that connect everything to everything else." Her words reminded William of conversations they had shared in their early years together, when Kate would point out patterns and relationships in nature that reflected deeper truths about human existence. Even now, facing the ultimate mystery, she remained the poet and philosopher who had first captured his heart. As afternoon turned to evening, Kate's breathing became more irregular. Dr. Martinez had explained that this was normal, that the body's systems were beginning to shut down in preparation for the final transition. He assured them that Kate was not experiencing pain, that the medications were keeping her comfortable while allowing her to remain present with her family. Father Thomas returned for what everyone understood would be his final visit with Kate. She was awake when he arrived, and her face brightened with genuine pleasure at seeing him. Their relationship had deepened quickly over the past week, built on mutual respect and Kate's appreciation for his willingness to explore spiritual questions without imposing his own beliefs. "I wanted to thank you," Kate said, her words coming slowly but with clear intention. "Our conversations have helped me understand that I've been living a spiritual life all along, even when I didn't recognize it as such. Every act of love, every moment of wonder, every connection with another person, it's all been sacred." Father Thomas took her hand gently. "You've taught me as much as I've shared with you. Your approach to love and relationship, your grace in facing uncertainty. These are sermons more powerful than any I've ever delivered from a pulpit." Their final conversation was brief, but profound. Kate spoke about her understanding that death was not an ending, but a transformation, that the love she had given and received would continue to ripple outward through the lives of everyone she had touched. Father Thomas listened with the deep attention that had characterized all their interactions, offering gentle affirmations of her insights after he left.
Kate asked for a few minutes alone with each member of her immediate family.
She spoke privately with Emma first, sharing mother-daughter wisdom that was meant for Emma alone. Their conversation lasted nearly an hour, punctuated by tears and laughter in equal measure. Michael's time with his mother was shorter, but equally intense. Kate had always understood that her son processed emotions differently than his sister, preferring direct communication to lengthy emotional discussions. Their conversation focused on practical matters and future plans, but underlying every word was a depth of love that needed no elaborate expression. When Kate asked for time alone with William, Emma and Michael retreated to the family lounge, understanding that their parents needed space for their own farewell. The room felt different with just the two of them, charged with the weight of 23 years of shared history and the approaching end of their earthly partnership. Kate reached for William's hand, her fingers trembling but her grip surprisingly strong. "I need you to promise me something," she said, her eyes searching his face with an intensity that reminded him of their wedding day, when she had spoken her vows with similar conviction. "Anything," William replied, meaning it completely. "Promise me that you won't let grief define the rest of your life. Mourn me, miss me, remember me. But don't let my death become the most important thing that ever happened to you. Our love, our children, the life we built together, let those be the important things, and then build new important things." William struggled to speak around the emotion that threatened to overwhelm him. "I don't know how to imagine life without you." Kate smiled, the same smile that had reassured him through every challenge they had faced together. "You don't have to imagine it all at once. Just promise me you'll take it one day at a time, and that you'll remain open to whatever possibilities the future might hold. I want your next chapter to be as beautiful as the one we wrote together." They talked through the evening, sharing memories from every phase of their relationship. Kate seemed to have access to details from their early dating years that William had forgotten, and she painted pictures of their young family life that made him laugh despite the circumstances. As night deepened, Kate's energy began to fade, but her contentment remained evident. She had said everything she needed to say, connected with everyone who mattered to her, and created a framework for her family's future that honored their past while embracing possibility. "I'm ready," she whispered as William helped her settle back against her pillows. "I'm ready for whatever comes next, and I'm at peace with everything we've shared. Thank you for giving me such a beautiful life." Monday morning arrived with unusual stillness. The hospital seemed quieter than normal, as if the building itself was holding its breath in respect for what was unfolding in Kate's room. William had spent the night in his familiar chair, dozing fitfully while maintaining his vigil beside the woman who had been his partner in everything that mattered. Kate's breathing had become very shallow during the night, each breath requiring visible effort. Dr. Martinez had visited early and confirmed that they were in the final hours. He spoke with gentle honesty about what the family could expect, preparing them for the physical changes that would signal Kate's approaching departure, while assuring them that she remained comfortable and peaceful. Emma and Michael had returned to the hospital before dawn, neither able to sleep at home while their mother was so close to leaving them. They settled into their usual positions on either side of the bed, creating a circle of love that had sustained them all through these difficult weeks. The morning brought an unexpected gift. Kate's eyes opened with more clarity than they had shown in days, and she looked around the room as if seeing each face for the first time. Her gaze lingered on each family member, and though she could no longer speak, her expression conveyed everything that words might have carried. "We're all here." "Mom," Emma whispered, taking her mother's hand. "Everyone who loves you is right here with you." Kate's eyes moved to William, and in that look he saw 23 years of shared history compressed into a single moment of perfect understanding. She had been his partner in parenting, his companion in adventure, his comfort during difficulties, and his greatest supporter in pursuing dreams that had sometimes seemed impossible. The recognition in her eyes told him that she was remembering it all. Too, their first apartment with its broken heating and secondhand furniture. The night Emma was born and they had held their daughter in wonder and terror. Michael's graduation from college when they had looked at each other across the auditorium and marveled at how quickly their little boy had become a man. Michael leaned closer to the bed, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for everything, Mom. For every sacrifice you made, every lesson you taught us, every time you believed in us when we couldn't believe in ourselves. We're going to make you proud." Kate's lips curved slightly, the ghost of the smile that had illuminated countless family dinners and holiday celebrations. Even without words, her response was clear. She was already proud, had always been proud, and would remain proud of the remarkable people her children had become. As the morning progressed, Kate's periods of consciousness became shorter, but each time she opened her eyes, she seemed to be checking on her family, making sure they were managing this transition with the grace she had always tried to model for them. The nurses had begun speaking in softer tones, moving through their duties with extra gentleness and respect. Kate had touched every member of the staff during her stay, and they understood they were witnessing something precious, a demonstration of how love could transform even the most difficult circumstances into something beautiful. Father Thomas arrived during the afternoon, not to perform any formal rituals, but simply to be present with the family during these sacred hours. His quiet presence added another layer of comfort to the room, representing the broader community that was holding Kate and her family in their thoughts and prayers. Around 3 o'clock, Kate's breathing pattern changed noticeably. The spaces between breaths grew longer, and her family understood instinctively that they were entering the final phase of their goodbye. Without discussion, they moved closer to the bed, each person finding a way to maintain physical contact with Kate, hands on her arms, fingers stroking her hair, gentle touches that conveyed all the love that could no longer be expressed in words. William found himself speaking aloud, sharing memories and expressions of gratitude as if Kate could still hear every word. He told her about the pride he felt when introducing her as his wife, the security he had found in her partnership, and the gratitude he felt for the family they had created together. "You made me a better man," he said, his voice steady despite the tears streaming down his face. "You taught me how to love without conditions, how to parent with wisdom and patience, and how to face challenges with grace. Everything good in my life has been better because you were part of it." Emma spoke about the example Kate had set as a woman and a mother, how her strength and compassion had shaped Emma's own approach to relationships and artistic expression. "You showed me that it's possible to be both strong and gentle, both independent and connected. I'll carry that balance with me forever." Michael shared his appreciation for his mother's unwavering support of his ambitions, her practical wisdom during difficult decisions, and her ability to celebrate his successes without taking credit for them. "You gave me roots and wings," he said simply. "Everything I accomplish will be built on the foundation you helped me create." As the afternoon light began to fade, Kate's breathing became even more labored. Her family maintained their positions around the bed, creating a circle of love that seemed to generate its own warmth and light. The room felt different now, charged with something that transcended the medical equipment and hospital surroundings. At 6:47 p.m., as the sun was setting beyond the hospital garden, Kate took a final gentle breath and did not take another. The transition was so peaceful that it took the family a moment to realize what had happened. There was no struggle, no distress, simply a quiet settling into stillness that somehow felt like the most natural thing in the world. William continued holding her hand for several minutes, marveling at how she looked peaceful rather than absent, as if she had simply moved into a deeper state of rest. Emma sketched one final drawing, her mother's face in repose, surrounded by the hands of family members who continued to touch her with love, even after her spirit had departed. Dr. Martinez arrived within minutes, summoned by the nursing staff who had been monitoring from a respectful distance. He confirmed what the family already knew and spoke briefly about the procedures that would follow. His professional demeanor was tempered with genuine emotion. Kate's grace had affected him deeply, and he would carry the memory of her courage and love throughout his own career. The next hours passed in a blur of necessary tasks and gentle support from hospital staff who had grown to love Kate during her stay. Family and friends began arriving as news of her passing spread, bringing flowers, food, and the comforting presence of community that Kate had always valued above material possessions. As William finally prepared to leave the hospital that evening, he realized that Kate had achieved exactly what she had hoped for in her final weeks. She had used her remaining time to strengthen relationships, express gratitude, and create a foundation of love that would support her family long after her physical presence was gone. Her farewell had indeed been filled with grace, not just in the dignity with which she had faced death, but in the way she had transformed what could have been a time of pure sorrow into an experience that had deepened every relationship it touched. The embrace she had shared with each person who loved her would continue to provide comfort and strength for years to come, a lasting testament to the power of love to transcend even the ultimate separation. In the car driving home to an empty house, William felt Kate's presence as clearly as if she were sitting beside him. Her final gift to him was the understanding that their love had been so thoroughly woven into the fabric of his life that death could not unravel it. She would live on in every act of kindness he showed, every moment of joy he allowed himself to experience, and every connection he made with the people who would help him write the next chapter of his story.